Good day, Deep in Word family. Welcome to day 327 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through two chapters, 22 and 23 of the book of Acts. We closed out the chapter study review literally on the brink of Paul getting into addressing his people, the remnant who came back from Babylon, right? So we have some of the tribesmen from Levi, Benjamin, and Judah, right? And that's who is left of who are the Israelites in the land. And so he is about to address them. And so we're going to read about it today. Let's pick up where we left off yesterday. Here are the words of Paul, aka Shaul, to the brethren, to his people, the blood people Israel. He says, "Brothers and fathers, hear my defense, which I now make to you." When they heard that he addressed them in Hebrew language, they became even more quiet. Then he said, "I am a Jew. I am a Yahudi, all right, born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city." So he's like, look, I was born in Rome, but ethnically I am a Jew. And he says, "At the feet of Gamaliel, I was trained in the strict tradition of the Torah of the fathers, being zealous towards Elohim, as you all are today. I persecuted this way to the death." And he's talking about the way of following Yeshua. He says, "I was the one who persecuted them unto their last breath." And he says, "Arresting and imprisoning both men and women, as even the high priest and the council of the elders bear witness of me. From then I received letters to the brothers in Damascus, where I went to take even those who were there and lead them in chains to Jerusalem to be punished." He continues to tell his story, and he tells them, "As I journeyed and came near Damascus, about noon, suddenly a great light from heaven shone around me. I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, 'Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me?' I answered and said, 'Who are you, Lord?' He said to me, 'I am Yeshua of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting.' Those who were with me saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear the voice of him who was speaking to me. I said, 'What shall I do, Lord?' The Lord said to me, 'Rise and go into Damascus. There you will be told what you have been appointed to do.'" Paul says, "Since I was blinded by the glory of the light, those who were with me led me by the hand into Damascus. Ananias, a devout man according to the Torah, who was well spoken by all of the Jews living there, came and stood by me and said, 'Brother Shaul, receive your sight.' And at that moment I looked up at him. Then he said, 'The Elohim of your fathers has appointed you to know his will and to see the just one and to hear his voice. For you will be his witness to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why do you wait? Rise, be baptized, and wash away your sins, and call on the name of the Adon.'" Paul says, "When I returned to Jerusalem and was praying in the temple, I fell into a trance and saw him saying to me," these are the red letters, he saw Messiah saying to him, "Hurry, get out of Jerusalem immediately, for they will not receive your testimony concerning me." I said, "Lord, they know that I imprisoned and beat those who believed in you in every synagogue. And when the blood of your martyred Stephen was shed, I was standing, consenting to his death, guarding the clothes of those who killed him." Then he said to me, "Depart, for I will send you far away to the Gentiles." As we walk into verse 22, I want you to see how they were all quiet. They were listening with their hearts, with their minds. They were listening up until he said that. Up until he said, "I am being sent away," right, to preach this news to the Gentiles. Let's pick up. It says, "They listened to him up into this word, and they lifted up their voices and said, 'Away with such a man from the earth, for he is not fit to live.'" You see, the people of Yah had been so indoctrinated that they didn't see the truth from the very beginning. You see, they were appointed to be a special people unto Yah, a holy priesthood, so that they may partake in being a light unto the nations. But you see how they were shutting the door, not only on themselves, but to the nations. They were forfeiting the call on their life. They themselves were called to be that priesthood that reaches all of mankind to bring them back into the fold. But see, there was this puffed up pride, thinking that the covenant promise was only for the physical descendants of Abraham. But there are spiritual children of Abraham that are yet to be reached. What a blessing it was for Paul to be stopped in his tracks and to see who the true light is and to connect all of the dots on how he would fulfill the great command on his life, the great co-mission as a co-heir in the Messiah, as to be a light carrier and then be a light unto the nations, as we are all walking, talking tabernacles, and we are representing the King on high. Fortunately for Paul, he saw it, but the majority did not. But that keeps true to Scripture, There's only ever been a remnant who truly followed the way from the very beginning. But let's continue reading and pick up in verse 23. Now it says, as they shouted and threw off their garments and threw dust into the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks and examined with scourging, so that he might learn what crime they were alleging against him. As they stretched him forward with straps, Paul said to the centurion standing by, "Is it legal for you to flog an uncondemned Roman citizen?" On hearing this, the centurion reported to the commander, saying, "What are you doing? This man is a Roman citizen." The commander came and said to him, "Tell me, are you a Roman citizen?" And he said, "Yes." The commander answered, "Look, I bought my citizenship for a large sum." And Paul answered him and said, "But I was born a Roman citizen." Verse 29, therefore those who were about to examine Paul immediately backed away from him, and the commander feared, knowing that he was a Roman citizen and because he had bound him. See, that goes to show you that because he was a Jew, they thought that he was born in Jerusalem. But he's like, oh no, I need y'all to be very careful with your steps because you're actually persecuting one of your own. I was born in Rome and you're persecuting me unlawfully. Y'all are about to get it. I want you to take note that our Messiah knew that all along. He knew exactly who he was going to choose and pull out, right? One who had a Roman citizenship so that the word, the light, can literally go to the nations. Now let's open up chapter 23. Paul looked at the Sanhedrin and said, "Brothers, I have lived in all good conscience before Elohim until this day." The high priest Ananias ordered those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "Elohim will strike you, you whitewashed wall. Do you sit judging me according to the Torah, yet order me to be struck contrary to the Torah?" One, I just want to stop and pause because we have seen this term whitewashed or white dubbed wall before in the past. But if you have forgotten, please write that down and do your research and go see what that means. And I love how he questioned the high priest because the high priest, right, was unlawfully handling things, striking a man without hearing his full testimony. And he's calling him out. You are a ruler of the people, right? And you're charging me, striking me contrary to the law. Let's pick up in verse 4. It says, those who stood by said, "Do you criticize Elohim's high priest?" Paul said, "Brothers, I did not know he was the high priest, for it is written, 'You shall not speak evil of the ruler of your people.'" Why would Paul know that he was the high priest, right? Because he wasn't acting like one. Verse 6, then Paul, knowing that one sect were Sadducees and the other were Pharisees, he cried out among the Sanhedrin, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of a Pharisee. I am being judged for my hope in the resurrection of the dead." When he had said this, dissension arose between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. Do you see what Paul did right there? He used the fact that they were already split on this subject, and he knew that that would cause them to divide. So he pleaded with them saying, look, I'm being persecuted for my hope in the resurrection. So of course the Pharisees are going to side with him in this moment. Look, Paul told you that he grew up being well studied in the Torah, in the law. Why do you think that Jewish people, Jewish men, Jewish women make some of the best lawyers? Because they have been studying the true law from on high since they were little. And so since he knew the ins and outs and he understood how people were separated, he used it to his advantage in this moment. The word will make you wise. Let's keep reading. Verse 8, it says, "For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit, but the Pharisees acknowledge them all." There was a great outcry. The scribes that were from the sect of the Pharisees stood up and argued, "We find no evil in this man, but if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him, let us not fight against Elohim." When much dissension arose, fearing that Paul would be torn to pieces by them, the commander ordered the soldiers to go down and take him from them by force and bring him into the barracks. The following night, Yeshua stood by him and said, "Take courage, Paul, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome." At daybreak, some of the Jews conspired together under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they have killed Paul. There were more than 40 who had conspired. They went to the chief priests and elders and said, "We have bound ourselves under oath not to eat until we have killed Paul." Well, they're about to starve to death. But let's keep reading in verse 15. It says, "So now, with the Sanhedrin, tell the commander to bring him down to you tomorrow, pretending to inquire further concerning him. We are ready to kill him before he arrives." But when the son of Paul's sister heard of the treachery, he went and entered the barracks and told Paul. So Paul calls one of the centurions over, right, to tell him of what his nephew basically had discovered. And so the nephew tells the centurion, and the centurion then takes him to the commander to tell him. So the centurion and the commander, they're both Romans and they have to protect their own. And Paul is one of them. He's a Roman citizen. And so the boy, right, Paul's nephew, says to the commander, "Look, the Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down tomorrow to the Sanhedrin, pretending to inquire further concerning him. Do not trust them. More than 40 men who have bound themselves with an oath to neither eat nor drink until they have killed him are waiting for him. And now they are ready, waiting for your promise." The commander dismissed the young man and ordered him, "Tell no one that you have reported these things to me." I don't know if you remember, but taking a vow and then invoking the name of Yahweh is punishable by death, right? If you don't complete that vow. So more than 40 men got together and they made a vow with one another. Now, I don't know if they invoked the name of Yahuwah, but if they did, they're about to die. Let's pick up in verse 23. "Then he summoned 2 centurions and said, 'Prepare 200 infantrymen, 70 mounted soldiers, and 200 light infantrymen with spears to go to Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night, and provide mounts so Paul may ride and take him safely to Felix the governor.' He wrote a letter and it went like this: Claudius Lysias, or Lysias. Hopefully I'm saying his name right, but if not, y'all, let's just keep it moving, okay? This is how the letter reads. It says, 'To His Excellency, Governor Felix. Greetings. This man was seized by the Jews and was about to be killed by them. When I learned that he was a Roman citizen, I came with soldiers and rescued him.'" Look at him covering his back. And so he says, "Being minded to learn what crime they alleged, I took him to their Sanhedrin. I found him being accused of controversial matters about their Torah, but charged with nothing worthy of death or imprisonment. When it was revealed to me that there was a plot against the man, at once I sent him to you and ordered the accusers to state before you their charges against him. Farewell." So the letter has ended, and let's finish out reading the rest of the chapter. It says, "So the soldiers, according to their orders, took Paul by night to Antipatris. The next day they let the cavalry depart with him, and they returned to the barracks. When they arrived to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they presented Paul also to him. Upon reading the letter, the governor asked what province he was from. And so when Felix, the governor, learned that Paul was actually from Cilicia, from his province, he told him, "Look, I will hear you when your accusers arrive also." And so he ordered that he be guarded in Herod's praetorium. That concludes today's chapter study. And I want you to see how the Romans, there's law and there's order. And I want you to see how they are protecting Paul because he is a Roman citizen. They want to make sure he gets a proper trial, unlike how the Jews mishandled our Messiah. Our Messiah did not get a proper trial, and he was dealt with unlawfully. But that had to be done to fulfill the scriptures. I just want you to see the contrast and how things are handled. Because you notice how Shaul, called out the high priest, and he didn't know that he was the high priest because he was dealing with him unlawfully. All right, Deep and Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.